Just first of all, just have you seen a sort of different, more positive side of the group after last week's victory?
Yeah, really positive. Great to get a win and good to get an improved performance. And I thought, the actual occasion and the Magic weekend obviously brought out the best in us. So yeah, it was a good weekend. But straight back to work and looking forward to tomorrow's game.
What's the biggest difference that you've seen? Obviously, you'll have gone over the footage. What's the biggest difference that you've noticed over recent weeks and maybe over recent months?
I just think the tweaks that we've made in terms of a bit of a reset that was leading into the Huddersfield game. The guys are actually really bought into that. We spoke about putting alarm through obviously the first half of the season, and I think that mental refresher has really proved of benefit to the group. So they attacked the Huddersfield game. We had a good week's practice. There was aspects in the defensive side of our game. We showed some real improvement against Huddersfield. And then last week, probably wasn't happy from a defensive point of view what we did against Leeds. They scored some easy points, and I thought the ruck speed in which their outside backs got for them was a problem for us from a defensive point of view. But I thought offensively, we showed some real cohesion, and we looked threatening when we got into good areas of the field. So yeah, some positive steps on both sides of the ball over the last 2 weeks.
And it's the second time you've had that 1, 6 and 7 combination. How happy are you with that going forward now?
Yeah, really, pleased. I thought Gazwood, had a great game, probably his best game in the Castleford shirt at the Magic weekend on a big stage. And your big players, you need them to ice those moments. And I think, Gaz did that. The kick off the sideline, when it was all on the line, to put us 2 points in front was, fantastic. And, great for him and his confidence. And then, in Max Shane, Westerman, Miller and Broadbent, they all, worked very, very well together. And, we showed some, offensive strike and a little bit more understanding where they was all on the same page, which, is really pleasing for us.
In terms of the 21 this week, we know why Alex Mellor and Liam Watts aren't involved. What's the issue with Elliot Wallace?
Yeah, he's done a pec. So he's torn some fibres in his pec. So we had him scanned. He's due to see the specialist early next week. So hopefully it's not going to require surgery, but it's significant enough for him not to be able to play this week, which is really disappointing because Elliot's been a bit of a shining light the last 2 weeks, and the try he scored at the weekend was very well taken. So yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointing blow for Elliot, but he's only a young lad, so we need to make sure that we do the right bit for him by him with regards to his physical health.
You've had an issue with pecs, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We've had a couple of upper body injuries, obviously now, pec, and then obviously Elliot. And Elliot's has been done, in the act of either scoring a try or, reaching out. He sort of like got himself obviously in that outstretched position and, just felt obviously, a little bit of a tear in there. So yeah, disappointing. Bruising had come out on Monday. So we needed to make sure that, we look after him and make sure that we, protect him from a long-term point of view.
Aaron Willis is in the 21 for the first time. I think he was the Academy Player of the Year, wasn't he, last year?
Yeah,
what
right.
else can you tell us about him? And has he got a credible chance of featuring on Friday?
Yeah, there's a credible chance of Aaron featuring. He's, tough, workman-like back row forward, defends well. Trains with great energy, very thorough in his professionalism. And has worked his way into that 21-man squad. Been playing well, obviously at the Midlands and doing some good stuff there, and has been training well. So yeah, there's a chance that Aaron might feature.
He's been involved. He's been training with the first team, hasn't he? This year.
Yeah.
What sort of difference do you see when you get one of the academy guys in that first team environment? How quick is that uptick in development?
I think it all comes down to that individual and their attitude, and Aaron's attitude to training and educating himself and spending time with the senior players and wanting to do extras and wanting to do miles first class. And that's probably one of his, big strengths. Very thorough. Really good kid and very dedicated. He travelled a hell of a long way. I think he's it was a couple of hours drive for him to get to scholarship, if memory serves me right. So he showed that dedication and, that application you need to get on. Very, very supportive parents, who was happy to drive him all that way to the scholarship. And, it was nice at the beginning of the year when he was presented with his shirt number. Aaron was on, obviously, our table, and his mum and dad was obviously on the table. They was very, very proud of, obviously, what Aaron is as a young man. So he's a good kid. Deserves, obviously, the opportunity, and, he's performed exceptionally well in the full-time environment. And the big thing is the respect of his teammates, with how he applies himself in training. And, if he gets the opportunity on the weekend, I'm sure he'll take it.
You mentioned Niall Evalds. Hull KR have obviously confirmed their interest. What's the side of the story from Cassie's point of view?
Yeah, it's a tough one with Niall. We haven't seen the best of him in the 2 years that I've obviously been on board from a first team coaching point of view. We're not in a position at this moment, to make him an offer, because he's not playing. We need to make sure that we cut our cloth accordingly and, spend our budget wisely. And at the moment, the fact that he's not playing makes it difficult to, really put a strong case to say, right, we're definitely going to, make this amount of money available to him from a signing point of view. So, it's tough. When them contracts aren't given out, and you go past that deadline, other teams are able to, inquire and make offers to them, and some teams may be afforded a little bit more budget than we've got. So, Niall's a good player and a good kid. We unfortunate that we haven't quite seen the best of him, so makes it difficult to really stake a claim to say, right, we're going to invest X amount into this player when he hasn't been able to get on the field. So it's a challenge, but that's the nature of, obviously, this open window in terms of recruitment.
Is there any potential for something on that front to happen this year, or is this all for next season?
Regards to
Niall.
Yeah, like next season, it's we have to cut our cloth according, like I say. We're not in a position to make a move on Niall at the moment.
How far or how happy are you with the situation behind the scenes in terms of a lot's been made of the players off deal and the retention sort of challenge there, and obviously you're looking at bringing players in. How are you happy with where you are right now?
Yeah, we're okay at the moment. We're looking, and you're making offers to players and identifying players. But like I said last week, you can have the money available to you. You can identify the player, but they've got to actually, want to come. And that's the process which most clubs are going through at the moment. And, we're just one of 12 clubs who are in the same boat.
What about Salford? What are they going to throw at you on Friday night, do you think?
A hell of a lot. Very, very, dangerous attacking team. Croft, Sneed, Braley, that span, throw Partington in there. Very, very creative. And they've been together now, consistently, for 18 months. So their combinations and their understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses is first class. I think the way that, Paul Rowley and the coaching staff at Salford have got them playing is, very, very pleasing on the eye. They get the ball to where their strike is, which is in them outside backs. Kencio, Joe Burgess, Dion Cross and Tim Laffey, exceptional outside backs, and will cause you problems. And then the forward pack, very workmanlike. They go about their business, probably don't get the plaudits that they deserve. But they do a really good job at setting a good platform for that team to play off. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but one we're looking forward to.
And just lastly for me, you weren't a million miles away the last time you played them at Salford. I think, if memory serves, the video ref was quite busy that night. What was the sort of main lesson you took away from that, and does it give you some encouragement for Friday?
Yeah, it does. It's a little bit like we've said before. We created some opportunities that night, but we just didn't nail them. I think the difference for us at the Magic weekend was the opportunities that were created. We actually nailed them. Passes stuck. Catches were made, and we converted those opportunities to points. And to score 5 tries, was great for us, and we'll need to do the same. Salford will present us with some opportunities to score points. What we've got to make sure that we're doing well is our attention's good and our skills good and our execution's good, and we convert those opportunities and get the scoreboard ticking over in the right way.
You said that you're having to cut your cloth. Are you having to, is your budget cut from this year to next year at the minute?
No, it's just basically just making sure that we get the right players on the right salaries. What we don't want to do is have players on overinflated salaries and not delivering on performance week in, week out. So we want to make sure that we get full value from our cap, which probably we haven't done this season. So that's why we're being very, very diligent and making sure that we make the correct moves.
How long will that process take? People talk about salary cap in cycles. It's not going to be easy to thoroughly get your stamp on the squad like in round one of it, is it?
No, it's not. It's going to take a little bit of time. A couple of windows. You'd like to hope that you're starting to see what we want to be about, moving forward. And we've spoken about, lowering the age profile of the team previously, and we are actually, trying to do that with, some of the signings that we're making. But plenty of other teams have got the same plan. So you're fighting it out, for the same players, which is a challenge. But we've made some, strides with regards to, our team's going to look next year, and we'll make sure that as and when we're able to, we'll put out some news with regards to recruitment.
How important is this game tomorrow? Because you're going to find out, aren't you, whether last week was a flash in the pan or the start of something sustainable.
Fair point. Yeah, it'd be nice to get, back-to-back wins. It was a good performance, like I say, last week, because we got the result. We had a good week's practice. Confidence is certainly higher than it was previously. We're looking forward to the challenge on Friday night on home soil, against a good team or in a good run of form. It'd be great to go back to back. We've just got to make sure that we take it one game at a time and make sure that we improve aspects of our performance. And if we do that, we'll give ourselves a chance of getting the 2 points.
Yeah, you touched on recruitment there. Is it important to get the win for forward planning as well to convince targets that you will be in Super League next year?
Yeah, definitely. That's a big challenge for us as a club. We're not happy with where we are at the minute. We've underperformed this season. That's quite evident. Everyone and me included, felt we've got a better team on paper than we've currently shown. But you've got to go and deliver. You've got to go and perform, and I think that's the biggest thing for players who are off contract and players who are in contract. You've got to deliver on performance. I don't think it was any coincidence that our best players last week all probably performed closest to their best on the same day. Gaz Wood, that was his best performance probably in a Castleford shirt. I'd argue that it was Jacob Miller's best performance in a Castleford shirt. Paul McShane was very, very good. Joe Westerman was very good, and Liam Watts played exceptionally well. And they're father your higher earners. And that's a standard of performance that you expect from them on a weekly basis, and that's what you expect from your high salaried players. And those blokes, need to do that more consistently in the second half of the season. If they do that, we'll get more wins and losses.
Yeah. On tomorrow's game, you only have to go back to the game there last August for a reminder of how dangerous Salford are when they click. Do you need to be on it all over the park tomorrow? I don't expect you've gone back and looked at that game, but it's just it's an example of how dangerous it can be, isn't it?
Yeah. They're a team that if they get that momentum and some passes start to stick, and with the shapes that they throw at you, they're a team that can post points quickly. That day we didn't get off to a good start. There was 18-0 up within 12 minutes. So, the scoreboard pressure, got to us very, very quickly. We need to make sure that we start well tomorrow. We'll try and get them in that set-for-set stuff. We'll make sure that defensively we try and get after them and don't allow them the time to play. But saying it and previewing it and then doing it are two completely different things. They're a good team. They're well coached, got a lot of respect for obviously what they're doing. But we need to make sure that, we improve on our performance from last week. If we do that, we'll give ourselves a chance of, picking up the 2 points.
Are they a bit of a benchmark team in terms of what can be achieved by clubs who perhaps aren't in that top bracket?
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing for them is they've been able to keep their best players, certainly in their span, on the field. Max needs availability in probably the last 5 or 6 years. You'd argue was, probably the best halfback in the competition. He didn't miss games for Hull FC. He's not missed games for Salford. Brodie Croft, has been available, most weeks for Salford, and Ryan Brill is the same. So the span in terms of the 1, 7, and 6, of being able to get on the field, and if you do that, the odd occasion where Andy Ack isn't playing, or the odd occasion where Oliver Partington isn't playing, that fulcrum of their team is there, and that massively helps with regard to their cohesion, their ability to get the team around the field, and create the opportunities which they can.
Did you provide an update, sorry, on Jordan Turner and Alex Miller just after Magic?
Yeah, Jordan Turner's going to be okay. Alex Miller obviously is out with a concussion. Obviously, when I answered the questions after the game, it was in that 15-minute window, where he's got 15 minutes to pass HIA. So straight after the game, I went down. Unfortunately, obviously, he failed. Obviously, his concussion protocol, which obviously means that he can't play this week.
And just a word on Kenny Edwards. He was a player that you moved and shifted to the centres. Do you think that he's a player that you've seen the best of this year? Is there more to come from him?
Yeah, certainly more to come from Kenny. I think in the last 2 weeks, there's been an energy and a spring in his step. He's very, very competitive and played well against Huddersfield. And, I thought he showed some real signs against Leeds. When we moved him to centre, the ball he got, he looked threatening. Kenny's a real strike weapon for us, and, we need him to be good. If Kenny's, back doing what he did so well for us last year and starting to hit his straps, for the second half of the season, then, we'll win more games and create more opportunities on that left side than we have done previously.
And just finally, we've seen Danny Richardson's return to the training field. How's he doing? How's his rehab going?
Yeah, his rehab's going well. He's a very, very diligent young man. He's Danny, good professional, trains well, giving himself, best opportunity of getting himself back fit and strong. But the ACL injury that he had and the MCL injury that he had, was a really, really significant one. So, the time scale is a little bit of a slow one. He's where he needs to be, probably, maybe a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. So, he's doing well, and, we're looking forward to him being back in and around the training environment and with the boys on the field.
I think he ruled out the majority, or I think all of this season during pre-season. Is that still the case, do you think? Or is
it's a tough one. I'd like to hope that he might be available to come the back end of the season, but I don't want to put any timescales on it or any pressure on anybody. It's been a really significant, obviously, knee injury that he's had on the back of, obviously, a neck injury he picked up at the beginning of last year. So, he's just, doing what he needs to do in rehab, and as and when he's available, it'll be a bonus to us.
What's it with Beretta for Iman?
Yeah, he's picked up a bit of a wrist injury. Got some significant bone bruising, which impacted on his performance against Huddersfield. Felt as though he didn't have that full strength when he was carrying the ball. So, we're just being smart, and the fact that we don't play next week, and then it's Warrington, in a fortnight's time. That's the reason why we're giving him that extra little bit of time to obviously settle down, and then he'll be back into consideration in a couple of weeks' time.
And Liam Watts has been banned again, but having looked at the actual incident, how come you didn't decide to appeal?
What was to appeal?
The Crusher tackle.
Well, there wasn't really anything to appeal. I had this conversation with Liam. His head gets caught in a vulnerable position, and when you look at the letter of the law and how it's worded from the RFL's point of view, it's the defender's responsibility to create space if the head gets caught in a dangerous position. The only time that Liam creates that space is obviously when he's already to ground, which is frustrating. Liam was frustrated by it. I was frustrated by it. but it was difficult to argue with obviously with the footage. Doesn't help that actually Nene McDonald obviously reaches straight away for his head, but it was a tough one. Obviously, it wasn't malicious. It's just one of those incidents which happens, and it was difficult to actually challenge it on the footage that we had. What we didn't want to do was put a case to the RFL and then you get hit with another £250 fine and then another match because it becomes a frivolous appeal. So, we did, look at it and, we spoke and seeked a little bit of guidance, from the powers that be. But the evidence and the case that we were going to put to the RFL wasn't significant enough to, get it downgraded or, get Liam off. So we made the decision, not to challenge.
And of course, you seem to be linked to so many players nowadays, but one name that has cropped up is Jamie Shaw. Are you able to comment on that at all?
No, we've not looked at Jamie Shaw. So, that's way wide off the mark. Like Ethan Ryan was way wide off the mark.